Good morning. Welcome to another daily reading. This is Leviticus 11, which is a really good read, by the way. And, the whole word's a really good read, but, Leviticus 11 is unclean meats and clean meats. So whenever the word says, things have changed, they haven't. You're just reading it wrong. You're either reading, a verse or half of a chapter, and you're like, dude, see, look, I read more than a verse, I read half a chapter. Yeah, we'll read the other half, because you're probably still reading it wrong, because nowhere in the word does it change what this says here in Leviticus 11. And the other one is Acts 12. I read from the Institute for Scripture Research, the ISR, because it takes a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Greek to English, and Aramaic to English. Yah is the Elohim of the heavens and the earth, the first and the last and the only. He's an extremely jealous El. He's so jealous that he doesn't even want the names of idols or mighty ones to come to our lips. And Yah is short for Yahuah. Excuse me. Yah is short for Yahuah. Yod-He, Vav-He, Yah. What is the difference and does matters when people say that Phil, Bob, Sam, and Aaron are the same name when no, they're not, and no one in their right mind would ever believe that, and only a fool would believe that a hammer could force its creator to do anything. And there was no letter J in the Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic text because the letter J is about 600 years old, while the son of Elohim, Yahshua, the Messiah, sweat blood, was brutally murdered on a stake, spent 3 days in Sha'ul in darkness and gnashing of teeth and fire, and was resurrected on the third day for the sins of all of humanity over 2,000 years ago. And a direct translation from Hebrew to English, Yeshua, which is short for Yehoshua, is Joshua, and the son of Elohim's name, Yahshua, means Yah is salvation. Yah will save his people from their sins. The name of the Father is in the name of the Son. So there was this that one preacher I was telling you guys about a while ago. Teacher, more likely. I don't know the difference. Preacher, teacher. They're both teaching. Anyways, excuse me. In one of his videos, I'm still going back to discuss things with people because they're like, oh, you don't follow the Torah. I'm like, you don't even know my real name. What do you even know about me? Like, don't be a stupid fool. You don't follow Torah. How dare you say that I'm not allowed to say God, which is the pagan idol of fortune, over Yah. A boo-hoo-woo. You know, Yahuah's word's the one that calls you a liar, not me. I'm not the one that said, oh, you can't choose to call me whatever you want. You have to call me by my name. I'm not the one that said that. So when you're saying that I'm the one saying that, I just want you to point out that you're calling Yah a liar. You're saying that what he said doesn't matter, and that it's not true. Who's the fool here? You or me? I'll tell you what, I am too, but not on this case. Excuse me. Still sick, obviously, if you can't tell that. Excuse me. But let's get into this, because this is awesome. Leviticus 11. And Yahuah spoke to Moshe, Mosheh, and to Aaron, Aharon, saying to them, speak to the children of Israel, Yisra with a half a check mark L, saying, these are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Sorry, I thought I had something in my throat coming up. Excuse me. Whatever has a split hoof completely divided, chewing the cud, it has to have both split hoof completely divided and chewing the cud among the beasts that you do eat. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud or those that have a split hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud but it does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof completely divided, it yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcass you do not touch. They are unclean to you. Obviously, if you were to touch one of these carcasses, I mean, like, things happen. Like, if an animal falls in the middle of the road, you're not just going to leave it in the middle of the road. You're going to move it out of the way. Otherwise, it's going to cause traffic jams and all that stuff. So it makes sense that, you would touch it, but when you touch it, you're unclean. And you have to work to making yourself clean. I think the process is a week, but don't quote me on that, because I think it's a week on some things, and some things it's not. So, Excuse me. I have to blow my nose real quick. This is getting gross. All of them just come popping out at once. Oh yeah, of course. I don't want to talk about that. It's gross. Excuse me. Okay. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch. They are unclean to you. These you do eat at all. These you do eat of all that are in the waters, anyone that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas or in the rivers, that you do eat. Now you can't eat a crocodile because it doesn't have fins, even though it has scales. Yeah? But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the waters, that all that move in the waters of any living being which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate. All that have not fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you. And these you do abominate among the birds. They are not eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the vulture and the black vulture and the hawk and the falcon after its kind. Why these creatures? These creatures are bottom feeders. They're meant to clean the planet, not to be eaten. Same with pigs. They're bottom feeders. They're meant to clean the planet. There's no point in pulling them off to the side and only making sure they have a specific thing. It doesn't work like that. Let them be bottom feeders. Let them clean this planet. It seriously needs it. Excuse me. Every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the nighthawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. Hoopoe is Hoopoe. I keep forgetting to look this creature up. And the bat. All flying insects that creep on all fours is an abomination to you. Only these you eat of every flying insect that creeps on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet with which to leap on the earth. Well, I'm blind and I couldn't really see that if my life depended on me. I'd probably squish them before I actually be able to see that, so I just wouldn't eat it. These of them you do eat: the arba locust, Arbeh locust after its kind, and the solam locust, Solam locust after its kind, and the hargol locust, Argol locust after its kind, and the hagab locust, Agab with a line underneath of it, locust after its kind. But all other flying insects which have 4 feet are an abomination to you, and by these you are made unclean. Anyone touching the carcass of any of them is unclean until evening. See, there's some that are until evening, and there's some for 7 days. There's some for, I think, longer than that. I don't know. There's quite a few different dates. And anyone picking up part of the carcass of any of them has to wash his garments and shall be unclean until evening. Every beast that has a split hoof not completely divided or does not chew the cud is unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean, and whatever goes on its paws, not hooves completely divided, on its paws, among all the creatures that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean until evening.
And he who picks up their carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. They are unclean to you, and these are unclean to you among the creeping creatures that creep on the earth, the mole and the mouse and the tortoise after its kind, and the gecko and the land crocodile. It's crocodile, of course. And the sand reptile and the sand lizard and the chameleon, these are unclean to you among all that creep. Anyone who touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening, and whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object or garment or skin or sack, any object in which work is done, it is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening. Then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Sorry, I'm going to blow my nose again.
It was a tickling feeling.
I'm in that stage when I'm sick where it's like, it's a tickling feeling. It might not be just a tickling feeling. Just blow it. I'll just go back a little bit. And whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object or garment or skin or sack, any object in which in which work is done. It is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening. Then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Such impatient people. Any of the food which might be eaten on which water comes becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean, and on whatever any of their carcass falls becomes unclean. Any oven or cooking range it is broken down, they are unclean and are unclean to you. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water is clean, but whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But when any part is put on the seed, and any part of any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean until evening. And he who eats of its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who picks up its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And every swarming creature, the one that swarms on the earth, is an abomination. It is not eaten. Whatever crawls on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all swarming creatures, the ones swarming on the earth, these you do not eat, for they are an abomination. Do not make yourselves abominable with any swarming creature, the ones swarming, and do not make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahuah your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, the one creeping on the earth, for I am Yahuah who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, Mitsraym, to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the Torah of the beasts and the birds and every living being, the creeping creature in the waters, and of every being that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. And none of this will change. None of this has changed, and none of it will change. Like it says in Matthew, not one tittle or one tittle shall by any means pass from Yahuwah's Torah till all be done. All be done. What does it say in Revelation? How far is all be done? Well, all be done goes beyond the 1,000-year reign. and just spending eternity with Yahuah. And even then, we're going back to blood sacrifices, so it's not done away with. And only a stupid fool would believe that. Do not think that Yahuah has come to abolish the Torah. Do not think Yah has sent his son to abolish the Torah. There's no need to do ultimate blood sacrifices anymore because Yahuah became that ultimate blood sacrifice. There's no reason not to follow Yahuah's Torah. Not only did Yahshua make it more harsher to follow, it wasn't easier, it was harsher. Because before him, you could still think wicked thoughts, and as long as you didn't do them, it was okay. But now if you even think it, it's the same thing. So by the sounds of it, he made it harder, not easier, not done away with, more intense. But Christians, fakers, I call Christians fakers because they follow Baal God and Jesus Christos, which is Jesus Christ and Lord God. You want to call upon these names, you're not a believer. I'm just going to say that right now. Especially if you know better and you're thinking, well, I don't have to do it, and you shouldn't be getting all butthurt about me calling him God, even though, it's the pagan idol of fortune. He tells us not to have the names of idols or mighty ones come to our lips, and that he's such a jealous El that he would strike us down for doing such a thing. That does not mean you can turn around and just do it. Do not be a stupid fool. Excuse me. Acts 12. And about that time, Herodes, Herodes, the sovereign, put forth his hands to do evil to some from the assembly. And he killed Jacob, which is James, Ya'Aqob with a line underneath of it, the brother of Yohanan with the sword. Yohanan is John, Yoh with a dot, Anan. And seeing that it was pleasing to the Yehudim to arrest and kill these people who were preaching Yahuah's Torah, because they were abolishing the Pharisees' Torah. The Yehudim are the Pharisees. The only tribe to stay in power, the Jews. And they abolished Yahuah's Torah, and they replaced it with their own. And these people, Jacob and Yohanan, and quite a few other of them, Kêpha, which was Shimon, arresting them and throwing them in prison, that was pleasing to the Yehudim. Reason? Because they were abolishing their own Torah. And meanwhile, the Pharisees, when I say their own Torah, I'm talking about the Pharisees' Torah. These people, Yohanan, Jacob, they abolished the Pharisees' Torah and uplifted Yahuah's Torah, and for that they were put to death and arrested, and it was pleasing to the Yehudim. To this date, it's still like that. Pleasing to the Jews to kill innocent people. They go against what they believe, the Babylonian Talmud. It's disgusting. It's a disgrace. It's pathetic to stand with Israel right now. Israel is the state of Israel. It's not the people of Israel. Like I said in one of my other previous videos, and like I'll keep saying, because it's bugging me, because they won't correct themselves, so I feel like they still stand by it, so it feels like I'm okay to still say it. So, YRM believes that killing Arabs in the Middle East is totally okay, but not targeting the state of Israel for doing those types of acts. So you can't blame the Jews, but you can blame the Arabs. They're both from the Hebrew tribe of Israel. They're both Semites. It's not anti-Semitic to say, "Oh, how dare you target the Arabs in their Middle Eastern countries? How dare you target one of the 12 tribes and call it justice because you're too stupid to research for yourself that you're not actually fighting terrorists, you're supporting them, and you're killing innocent people." Bombing school buses and colleges in the name of humanitarian aid isn't freedom. Bombing hospitals isn't freedom. Oh, there used to be a terrorist in there, we believe, even though, They're standing in the way of our Halliburton pipeline, which is American, by the way. Pathetic. Pathetic and disgusting. Only a foolish people would believe such a thing is just. Like I said to YRM, stick to preaching the word and stop talking about politics, because you sound like a stupid fool when you start talking about politics, because you know nothing. You know what your mainstream media is telling you, and you stand by it. Disgusting. Don't get mad at me because I tell you the truth and you throw me under the bus. And you hide everything from everybody else. You say, no, he's just crazy. No, we had family that died, so it's offensive. Oh, I'm sorry you had family that died, you poor stupid fool. Your opinion and your feelings mean nothing to me, especially when I'm preaching facts. Cry about it. Be mad. Say I'm insulting you. I don't care. YRM, go ahead, hide under the rug. Do what every other assembly I've met does. And run away from the truth. But don't get mad at me when I tell you so harshly that you cry like a baby. We are the axis we claim to fight. Continuing. And seeing that it was pleasing to the Yehudim, he proceeded further to arrest Kêpha, K-E with a half a check mark, P-H-A as well. And they were the days of unleavened bread. That's a feast from Yahuah, something that gets upheld. So when they had seized him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to watch over him, intending to bring him before the people after Pesach, so after the Passover, yet another feast. P-E with a half a check mark, S-A-H with a dot. So Kêpha was indeed kept in prison, but prayer was earnestly made to Elohim on his behalf by the assembly. And when Hordes was about to bring him out that night, Kêpha was sleeping, bound with 2 chains between 2 soldiers, and the guards before the door were keeping the prison. And see, a messenger of Yahuah, just a regular messenger, not a capital M messenger, so that's not the Messiah. And seeing a messenger of Yahuah stood by, and a light shone in the building. And smiting the side of Kêpha, he raised him up, saying, "Get up quickly," and his chains fell off his hands. And the messenger said to him, "Gird yourself and bind on your sandals." And he did so. And he said to him, "Put on your garment and follow me." And coming out, he followed him, and knew not that what was done by the messenger was true, but thought he was seeing a vision. And when they had passed the first and the second guard posts, they came to the iron gate that leads to the city, which opened to them by itself. And they went out and went down one street, and the messenger instantly withdrew from him. And when Kêpha had come to himself, he said, "Now I truly know that Yahuah has sent his messenger and delivered me from the hand of Hordes and from all the Yehudi people were anticipating." And having realized this, he went to the house of Miriam, Miryam, the mother of Yohanan, John, who was also called Marcus, Marqos, where many had gathered to pray. And when Kêpha knocked at the door of the gate, a girl named Rhode, Rhode, came to answer. And when she recognized Kêpha's voice, she did not open the gate because of her joy, but ran in and reported that Kêpha stood before the gate. And they said to her, "You are mad." But she kept insisting that it was so, and they said, "It is his messenger." And Kêpha continued knocking, and having opened, they saw him and were amazed. I don't know why the girl will just be like, "Oh, I know who that is. I should open the door and let them in and then let them see," not just leave him at the door knocking. Like, you can tell this girl is more than likely very young or very childish. in these times, she literally just left him at the door knocking. Like, you know he was just in prison, right? You should probably let him in. That's just my opinion, but, you know. I'm older than a child. I'm literally 29 years old, so I've got plenty of life experience. Doesn't mean I'm wise, doesn't mean I'm intelligent, but life experience is life experience. Understanding such life experience, though, that's wisdom from Yahuah. I know people who are older than me that still act like they're 2 years old. It's pathetic. And Kêpha continued knocking, and having opened, they saw him and were amazed. And motioning to him with his hand to be silent, he told them how the master brought him out of the prison. And he said, "Report this to Jacob and to the brothers." And he left and went to another place. And now when day came, there was no small stir among the soldiers about what had become of Kêpha. And when hordes had searched for him and did not find him, he examined the guards and ordered them to be led away. So he arrested all the guards, and he went down from Yehuda to Caesarea, Caesarea, and stayed there. Now hordes had been highly displeased with the people of Sor, Tsor, and Sidon, Tsid, with a line underneath of it, On, but with one mind they came to him, and having made Blastos, Blastos, the sovereign's eunuch, their friend, they were asking for peace because their country was supplied with food by the sovereign's country. And on an appointed day, hordes, having put on his royal clothes, sat on his throne and gave an address to them. And the people kept shouting, "The voice of a mighty one, and not of a man." And instantly a messenger of Yahuah smote him, because he did not give the esteem to Elohim, and becoming worm-eaten, he died. And the word of Elohim went on growing and spreading. And Barnabas and Sha'ul, Barnabas Barnab with a line underneath of it, A, and Sha'ul, Shaul, returned from Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, having completed having completed the service, and having taken with them Yohanan, who was also called Marcus.
HalleluYah. Hope you enjoy this daily reading. Again, if you pretend to know politics, I suggest you just shut up. Keep your mouth closed. Your opinion doesn't matter. Unless you know what's happening in the world, your opinion means nothing to me. And from my opinion, who knows what's going on, who pays attention every single day, excuse me, I'll tell you again, YRM, stick to teaching the word, because outside that, you're a stupid fool.